As it's getting dark for the first time in the jungle, Jake lights a torch, and we play the whole scene sort of torch lit so you don't give away the bioluminescence. And there's a moment in the film where Neytiri takes the torch and throws it in a river. It's almost like opening the door to Oz. The torch goes out, and you see the bioluminescence for the first time.
One of the first things we did when we had the system up and running is we shot what we called a prototype.
Maybe we were crazy, but we never doubted that it would work. So we cast 2 actors who were not going to be the final actors, and we shot a short scene.
Okay, I'm sorry. Whatever I did, I'm sorry.
And then ILM finished it for us through to a so-called photoreal level.
You only come and make problems. Only.
Okay, fine.
Fine. You love your little forest friends. So why not just let them kill my ass? What's the thinking?
Why safe?
Yes. Why safe?
You not fear. You strong heart. But stupid, ignorant like child.
From that moment, when we saw that little 37-second clip, we knew this would work. It was just a question of how easy it was going to be. Of course, it wasn't easy. How much it was going to cost and how long it was going to take. But we never doubted that it could be done.
Weta Digital started with us doing the R&D on the project and was very eager to do the film.
John came to New Zealand to talk to us and brought a copy of Jim's original treatment for Avatar. I read it and I just devoured it. It was fantastic. And so we just started talking about it and just talking about the ideas that were in the story, the characters, the jungle, the floating mountains, the plants, just the whole world. It just seemed too fantastic to not put it on screen.
They'd just come off of Lord of the Rings, they were finishing up King Kong, and they had 2 firm offers to take very big shows. And they went to the board of directors at Weta, and they made a decision to pass on those money-paying shows and wait for Avatar in the hope that we would get green-lit.
Are we going to have somebody from your team with us next week while we're doing these scenes?
Yeah, I'll be there next week.
Joe's going to be there, and
Can't complain about that.
We worked with 2 different sides of Weta. We worked with Weta Digital, led by Joe Letteri, that was going to do the visual effects on the movie. And we began working with Richard Taylor and his incredible team of artists at Weta Workshop.
One of our trademarks at Weta is that we love to design a historical culture, a believable lineage of culture within a world. I felt that this offered us that opportunity.
I would suggest the Na'vi culture is more aligned to a Pacific culture, and what we've done is we've gone and hired weavers that come from the Pacific, and they're able to put that level of culture in.
Regardless of the fact it was set in the future, the people of this world needed to feel that they had lived in the past, they'd been on a journey to this place, and I found that really exciting.
We had a discussion, what kind of culture are they? Well, they're Neolithic culture. They can't use metals because they're in these very powerful magnetic fields. So they have to make everything out of bone and crystal and leather and so on.
Also woven into it, Jim definitely saw a further layer of adornment that would be suggestive of a culture that existed beyond the moment in the movie.
What Jim wanted to portray in the Na'vi people is actually a tribal look that was unique, soft, and beautiful, organic, reflecting the kind of philosophy that the Na'vi people live, which is very utopic and happy.
How's that?
I can still breathe.
Still breathe?
Yeah. How's that?
We'll have to be careful if you start to turn blue. I think one of the biggest disservices on this movie, sort of during the award season, if you will, was that the costume design was not recognized. There were actually 2 costume designers. But when Deb Scott came in, she actually fabricated every single article of clothing that every single virtual character in the movie wore.
It's a little bit of a learning experience for everyone to really try to figure out what the place of the costume designer might be. I didn't understand anything to do with computers really, or how that process was when I started. So I was completely playing catch up. I was stitching and sewing with a lot of amazing craftspeople who had been working on the project. They were approaching it just like the Na'vi would. Like, how would you weave a chess plate? So it was really like a giant jigsaw puzzle, taking some pieces that other people had already built, adding on to new pieces that I had craftspeople who had already been working on the project build for me, and sort of taking on and trying to finish off each character, which ended up being quite a few pieces.
The other challenge, of course, is that it can't look like anything you'd ever find on Earth. And that's fantastic. That's just such a cool challenge to start from scratch. What does a knife look like, you know? How do you wear it? All of this stuff informs everything else.
It's impossible for a CG artist to imagine how to simulate this stuff if there's no real-world reference first. Moat's ceremonial gown, what we called her mantle, we had to make that. And it was actually made in a number of different fabrics until we got exactly the right weight that would move the way we wanted it to move. The same thing with Sute's battle fringe. Deb Scott made up all kinds of different fringe of different weights and different lengths and so on, and we tested it. Basically, we did wind tunnel testing and saw what it looked like and imaged it. And then we said, all right, that's the weight, that's the right fringe, that's exactly the right color and length. Now, Weta, you guys have to figure out how to do a simulation and incorporate it into the animation.
All right, here we go. And action.
Two of the biggest challenges of keeping people engaged in the movie while we were going through this process were our two stars, Sam Worthington and Zoe Saldana.
We spent months and months and months looking at people, and then all of a sudden, Sam came on, and I mean, I remember the moment.
When I first came here, it was just orders, and then something happened. I fell in love with the forest and the people. With you.
And the thing for me about Jake was, in the end, I had to believe that the people would follow him.
Well, we would send them a message. That this is our land.
I sold everything I owned. All I had was basically a bag of books and a bag of clothes and my $3,000 car. And then I got a phone call to do this audition where they wouldn't tell me anything about the script, wouldn't tell me who the director was. And I'm thinking, well, once again, it's another waste of my time. And then about a week later, I get a phone call going, look, Jim Cameron wants to fly you to LA to audition for him. I said, well, what the hell for? And I said, that audition you did. I went, oh, here we go. I said, well, I've got to get down off, I was snowboarding at the time. I said, I've got to get down off the mountain first, I could be dead. So, well, especially the way I snowboard.
All right, got that? All right, here we go.
And because I was coming from having nothing to lose, it actually powered me up to actually kind of not be scared. So when you go into the audition and there's the guy who did Aliens and Titanic, and you go, what do you got, mate? Let's go. I think that's the character right there.
I wanted him to be young because I wanted him to be a guy who the promise of his life had been taken away by his injury. And Sam was exactly 30 when I met him, I think maybe even 29. But Sam had all the qualities that I was looking for to play Jake. But he talked like this. He was like Crocodile Dundee. We had to work on the accent a little bit.
I ain't gonna show that I'm weak to it, unless you want me to.
But he did it, as Sam does with all things. He conquered the accent, he conquered the physicality, and we slapped an experimental head rig on his head and said, now, be the star of this movie. He didn't blink, you know, he just did it.
A clean kill. You're ready.
Zoe had a combination of delicacy and boldness. There was a fierceness about her and an incredible physicality that was essential to being able to do this.
It was unusual, the auditioning process. From Margie to John, and after finally meeting Jim, I was that close, but at the same time, I was that far from getting the part. It was just a fun experience.
It's your fault. All your fault. Didn't have to die.
They attacked me. How am I the bad guy?
Your fault. You're like a child making noise, not knowing what to do.
The way they painted it out is like we were just gonna have fun, experiment, and see where it might take us. And once they kept it that light, I was able to not feel the pressure of wanting to get this job.
Why save me? Yeah, why save me? You have a strong heart.
We decided to do a little informal screen test between Sam Worthington and Zoe Saldana, our two leading choices for the roles. Because the key to this was performance and chemistry. Jake and Neytiri, that relationship had to work with the movie, wasn't going to work.
I've chosen. A woman has to choose me.